I really enjoyed seeing the band. I was in the band and played at many graduations, starting from 7th grade until I think my own graduation in 1980. And so it's just really nice to see you guys here tonight as well, and just to think back on those years. Being asked to speak at your high school's graduation is really a tremendous honor. And I will do my best to make you glad that you chose me by sharing some thoughts that I hope you'll find meaningful and, like the best graduation speeches, brief. I want to thank Kate for asking me to speak with you tonight. I can't tell you what a surprise it was for me to get an email from a young woman at AC Valley asking me to come speak at this year's commencement. It was something I never expected. And I asked Kate, why me? Why did she want me to give this year's commencement speech? And I thought her response was interesting. She said that she chose me because she thought it would be good for graduates to hear from someone who had actually left this area and ventured off beyond the Allegheny Clarion Valley. She asked me to talk about why I did that and whether it had turned out to be a good decision for me, because graduates are now at a point in their lives where you are making important decisions about your futures. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. So why did I do it? Well, to some extent, you can blame Mr. Kidman. He's right over there. In my sophomore year, Mr. Kidman was a relatively new teacher at AC Valley, and he organized a trip to Spain for his students in the Spanish class. And I absolutely loved it. I was captivated by the food, the different culture, and all of the sights that we saw. I remember sitting in the sun on the Costa del Sol, eating paella, which is a wonderful dish with rice and seafood and meat. I remember seeing the Alhambra, which is a beautiful palace built in the 13th century. And I enjoyed trying to communicate in a different language. It stretched my mind and made me think in new ways. And I wanted more. To be honest, I couldn't imagine a life for myself where I didn't get a chance to explore the world. I just couldn't imagine it. I was more afraid of always wondering what I had missed by not finding out what it was like to live somewhere else, by not seeing new sights, by not getting to know people who did things with their lives that were beyond my imagination, than I was of taking a few risks. And for me, taking the risk of moving to places I had never been before and doing things I had never done was worth it. Some of you may feel that way too. Others of you may feel just the opposite. You may think I'm crazy. You may be sitting there thinking to yourself, I like staying in my comfort zone, doing familiar things, and being around familiar people. I like that. But exploring the world and being in your comfort zone are not necessarily mutually exclusive. For me, exploring the world and being in my comfort zone and trying new things was my comfort zone. Staying in the same place and doing the same things I had always done was not, for me. Now, since you can all see that I have a physical disability, you may be wondering whether I was worried about that getting in my way. The answer to that is no. I find other people worry about that a lot more than I do. I always figured that as long as I could get on a bus, I could do anything I wanted. So, I went away to college in the Northeast at Yale, and then straight to law school in Boston. After law school, I realized that if I didn't take the chance to travel again, I might never get a chance to do it. So I went to Honduras, where I was a teacher's aide in a school for kids with disabilities. That was certainly an eye-opening experience. The school had been organized by mothers of kids with disabilities, and it was great to see how much they could accomplish, even with very limited resources. Can everyone hear me? I'm trying to talk to two audiences at one time. Okay. Now, not everything I did worked out the way I thought it would when I graduated from high school. I thought law was going to be a great career, full of excitement and always interesting. Instead, for me, I found it to be full of stress and boredom. I learned a little bit about the limits of my comfort zone. And so I decided to do something different. I went back to school at the age of 35 to get a PhD so that I could spend my time teaching people instead of fighting with them. I find it to be a much more positive and uplifting way to spend my time. And then in my 40s, I got married and had a little boy, and a cute one too. Now, if you had told me when I graduated from high school that I would be doing that I would have to reevaluate my life in my middle age and do something different, I would have been shocked. I thought you had to have everything all figured out by the time you were, say, at the latest 25. Are any of you feeling that way? That you have to have it all figured out and fast? Well, don't rush. If you already have a very clear sense of direction and know exactly where you want to go, that's great. Go for it. You really should. But if you don't, take this opportunity to try out different things and to test your comfort zone. Find out what you're good at and what kinds of things you enjoy doing day after day. These days, there are so many ways to explore. The internet can be a dangerous place, but if you use your head, you can get ideas for things that you might want to do or things that you might want to see or explore by watching stuff on YouTube, by making new connections, on posting things on Facebook. You could even apply for jobs online in every state of the union. And, like me, you can also just get on a bus and go where you want to go. So you have even more tools to work with than I had when I was young, and I would urge you to use everything at your disposal. The one thing I would urge you to do, that I would urge you not to do, is to do nothing, to be passive. As I was getting ready for this talk, I came across a piece of advice from a fellow named Mason Cooley, who is a professor of English. He said, "Proverbial wisdom counsels against risk and change, but sitting ducks fare worst of all." Don't be a sitting duck. Take charge, take a few chances, and test the limits of your comfort zone. Thank you very much for having me here tonight.